I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-Minute Convos, where I help you create a brand of your own unique real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good night, Nick Cain. How are you doing on this wonderful, beautiful night?
Oh, well, you know what? It's about 11 a.m. here in Australia right now, so it's the sun's shining. It might be a bit dark where you are, but it's beautiful right over here.
That's great. That's great. Glad to hear that, my friend. Well, do tell us which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at this time.
Oh, well, I believe it was podcasting. So I'm an actor, first and foremost, and I started a podcast which is called The Act of Storytelling. And it's a podcast that I run with a fellow actor. Her name's Lauren Bailey. And really, it's all about changing the world through art. We take the Australian lens on everything, obviously, and our journeys as actors, but it really becomes a bit of a therapy session for us as much as it is a tool for the community.
Well, that's great. So at what point did you decide, okay, let's make this a podcast?
You know what? It was myself and Lauren were doing a show together. It was a theatre show, and we hadn't had a lot to do with each other beforehand. And I still remember it, actually. After the show, Lauren literally wrote me a thank you card and said, you know, I think we're on the same wavelength. Would you like to make something together? Wow. And I thought, that's a really cool thing for someone to reach out and say something like that. I was blown away. I had no idea what it would be at the time, but it turned out that Lauren in her head had the idea of a podcast.
Wow.
So I had to do a lot of research on what podcasting was back then.
Oh, so she had the idea, but you had to do the work in preparation for the podcast aspect.
Yeah, I had to do the heavy lifting. That's right.
That's good. Yeah, I love Lauren already.
She's such a champion to work.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, why will you continue to repeat the skill of what you do via the podcast?
Do you know why? Because every podcast we do, we have this wonderful thing that happens directly after we talk to someone amazing, like whether it be an actor or a director or a musician. We get inspired, and both myself and Lauren, we get this sort of look in our eyes, and you can see it. It's so beautiful, and it's very tangible. And we go away and try to infuse what we learn from our guests into our artistic lives, which, I mean, as far as inspiration and keeping you motivated, there's nothing better. And we kind of hope that the community that listen to us get that same effect.
That's wonderful. Well, where's the best place for someone that's listening to connect with you guys?
Yeah, definitely. Well, the website is probably a great start, just www.theactofstorytelling.com.au. But just search The Act of Storytelling, Facebook, iTunes. We're on iHeartRadio, Spotify, whatever you would like, we're out there.
That's wonderful. Well, my friend, tell me one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years, please.
Oh, you know what? Make a lot of mistakes, but take leaps of faith. I've done so much. Artistically, I've been to so many auditions, been involved with some wonderful shows, made my first feature film, as well as, while that's all happening, I've got married, moved cities, and have a baby on the way. So it's kind of this... It has been crazy, Engel. I can't even explain how crazy it has been, but it's been a beautiful ride.
Oh, so there's real-life drama and then there's stage-life drama.
That's right. And, you know, as most actors do, you like to bring the drama into your real life as much as you can, you know? That's what actors do, right?
Wonderful.
It's got to be heightened, whatever it is.
How does it make you feel balancing all of these things at the same time?
Sometimes it can be really hard, Engel. Sometimes it can be really hard. But I think the thing is, as long as you enjoy it, there's always that payoff at the end. So, as I said, I mean, the relationship side of things and the domestic side of things has been amazing. I've got a wonderful supportive partner. From the artistic point of view, it keeps growing, and that's what I love. You know, I'm what they would consider a developmental type artist. So, I grow every day, and I really enjoy that. So even though it's hard, I think it's one of those things that, what else would I do? I need that creative outlet.
Yeah, love it. Well, amazing audience, you're hearing it live here from Nick Cain. Again, he is the podcast host of The Act of Storytelling. And do check that out. Pretty fascinating, the imagination in action that's going on there. Nicholas, let's switch gears for a moment now. Let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Nick, what is what is your earliest childhood memory?
Do you know what? The earliest childhood memory I have, and I actually am pretty lucky because I have a photo of this, which I believe probably feeds into what I remember of the situation. But it was at a wedding where I was a page boy. And I'll never forget this because I put on some shoes. And when I put on the shoes, it was, how weddings can be. In the morning, everything's very frantic. I was a very good boy. I didn't like to talk too much when I was young. And my mum put on my shoes and forgot to take the paper out of the shoes. You know how they kind of stuff shoes with paper to keep the shape? And so I put them on and I thought, oh, this is majorly uncomfortable. However, off I went. And I didn't make it too far before I had the rings in my hand and I tripped over a gutter because obviously I didn't really know how far my feet were in the shoes. So there's this wonderful photo of me that my parents still have where I tripped over the gutter and I'm literally covered from head to toe in grass with these two rings sitting on these pillows. And I remember it as clear as day.
Wow. Ouchie. How do you think this memory connects to who you are today?
Probably learnt to speak up, Engel. That's the thing. Speak up. If something isn't working, speak up and make sure that, you're comfortable in your shoes is probably the second part of that.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, definitely. It connects, right? Yeah, I mean,
it does.
Even in the stage life, definitely as well, right? Like, I mean, as an actor, the last thing you want to do is be acting out of role, right? Which is intriguing that you're doing that now. And the fall part, though, just speaks to the drama and the beauty of it, though, I think. I mean, and the value that your parents brought by capturing it as well, right?
They brought so much value. But I know, I totally get where you're going in regards to, making sure that what you do, and that comes back to the podcast too, this idea of what we're trying to do is really change the world through speaking up and using our art to do that. So, it's one of those things where I learned to speak up and use my voice a lot more after that incident.
Love the picture and love your interpretation, my friend. If we fast forward to when you were 12, what was your favorite song?
Embarrassing. Okay. So the first album I ever bought, and don't judge me here, it was the Backstreet Boys. And it was I'll Never Break Your Heart was the actual single that I bought. And I do want to preface that now, Engel, and just say that I went on to a much heavier type of music in my teens. I went through Slipknot and Mudvayne and all those kind of really heavy metal type artists before I went into nice, good Aussie indie folk as I started to chill out.
I had a conversation with a guy named Jeremy Adams, a huge entrepreneur, and we sort of we unpacked what was happening when men chose the Backstreet Boys as their favorite song at 12, right? It was intriguing. Like he said, like most of the men that have chosen that song always they say things like, well, it's a bit embarrassing. Oh, well, it's hard to say. But he threw out something, as again, his song was that as well, right? Backstreet Boys. I think it was one of them. But he said that he thinks that from doing work that sometimes who we truly are and that emotional side of us, that we need to get in touch with it and not be ashamed of it. I was like, wow. Now, if you see Jeremy is like this bulky, raw kind of guy, right? At the start, it was intriguing because you just did it as well, right? Like, embarrassing, right? But
it's a good point. Yeah, I'm not sure why I went there, but I own it. now.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I own it.
Because I'm just like that. Like, oh, well, Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
I was intrigued.
No, it's interesting. It's something I've never explored, Engel. But I think it's one of those things that I'm obviously happy to say it on the podcast, so I've owned it somewhat.
Yeah, no, you're 70% there. Yeah, so fully own it, I would say. Yeah, Backstreet Boys. Yeah, there we go. Boom.
Watch out.
Love it.
Coming
Watch
to Australia
out
soon.
Nick, we've arrived at our destination. But before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Nick, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
Not specifically, but I hope everyone's learnt something from what I do in some way.
Are you married?
Yes.
Do you have
a beautiful
children?
Wife named Michelle.
All right.
No. I've got one on the way, though.
Congratulations. Do you believe in God?
Thank you. I believe in a version of God, but not one from my Catholic upbringing.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
Very much so, but it is a very small group.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
I am guilty of this. I can watch a fair bit of TV. I can watch up to 10 hours. I know it's not right. There I go.
What about screen time, the phone and or the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
It can be more than 8 too. I mean, the computer is so important to what I do in every form.
If you,
whether it be
Nick,
podcast,
all right.
whatever.
If you, Nick, had to share with us your own unique real statement, a statement that represents who Nick Cain is, what would you say that is?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to steal something here. It's a Voltaire quote, which is, God is a comedian playing to an audience too afraid to laugh. I just love that. Feels like me. You should never take yourself too seriously.
Yeah, there we go. Nick Cain, this has been a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Oh, just thank you so much, Engel, for inviting me to be a part of this. And please check out the podcast website at theactorstorytelling.com.au or my own website at nickcain.net.
Love it.
So please,
Nick,
thank you very much.
You're welcome. Nick Cain, thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with, and this is just the funny part, Angel Jones. I know you were saying Engel, it's cool, right?
Oh.
My wife, it's cool.
You can edit those out, right?
It's fun. It's fun. You're not the first. You wouldn't be the last. It's all good. Again, thank you, my friend, for passing through. It was really a great pleasure. Truly a great pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.